Well, there is fresh hope for compassion in the case of the Tamil family from Biloela tonight as government MPs break ranks and flag a possible final decision within weeks.
In the Queensland town of Biloela, residents hold vigil for the fourth birthday of a daughter they've not seen in years.
Happy birthday, dear Tani.
Tarnika marked the day in a Perth hospital, undergoing treatment for sepsis, separated from her father and sister.
I miss you. I love you, Tarnika.
She spent every one of her birthdays in federal detention, her well-wishes delivered remotely as celebrities sent a special recording of her favourite song.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Over the more than 3 years since the family was detained, community pressure has never dissipated.
We can't stay silent.
And it's now being felt within the government. Calls to free the family coming from MPs Katie Allen, Jason Falinski, Ken O'Dowd and Trent Zimmerman.
It is time that they were brought back onto the mainland of Australia and they were provided with the opportunity to remain here in Biloela with that community that has taken to their cause with such passion.
Immigration Minister Alex Hawke is tipped to make a decision within the next 2 weeks, but coalition leadership appears unmoved.
Trent was not in Parliament when some of those leaky boats were dashed up against rocks and all lives lost. I was. I remember the heartache.
The argument that a sole instance of compassion could serve as a green light to refugees has long been the go for many in government, including Peter Dutton. But we've been here before. In 2015, the then Immigration Minister granted special dispensation to a Rohingyan orphan who'd arrived in Australia by boat, despite warnings from Home Affairs that making such an exception could undermine settlement policy. That minister? Peter Dutton. So, as her community holds the line and dissent within the government grows, could Tarnika get to celebrate her next birthday at home?
Angela Fredericks is a close friend of the family and has been leading the fight to bring them home. Angela, welcome words from these government MPs. Does it give you hope?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly hearing, Liberal MP Dr. Katie Allen come out. She is trained as a paediatrician. So to hear her saying this needs to end and asking for that Section 195A to be enacted is such a welcome relief, and the whole community is hopeful.
Angela, do you have any news on the family themselves and how they've reacted to this news?
So we've actually been really careful when talking to Priya and Nadez about this. They have had their hopes built so often, even recently with community detention, again with resettlement options. We know they can't cope another lost hope. So we are wording this very carefully, and while we are quietly optimistic, until their feet are on the soil here in Biloela, we won't relax.
Do you have any word yet on how Tarnika's doing? I know she's still in hospital.
So we actually just heard from the Western Australia Health Director General, who said that Perth doctors have said that Tarnika does need further treatment, and they are actually requesting that the family is reunited. So that has gone forward to Home Affairs. So we will wait and watch to see what happens this week.
Angela, if Tarnika is able to lodge a visa application and it is successful, what does that mean for the rest of the family's status?
So my understanding is in some cases the family would be attached to that visa. Nadez is her primary carer, and I would desperately hope that no government would separate two sisters. So it is our hope that the family would all be included in that visa.
Well, Angela, so many Australians have got their fingers crossed, and when that happens, their voters, often politicians, follow. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
The good news is I have heard that the government is going to look to move on this not just in weeks but in potentially days. It would mean that the Prime Minister would be both overseas and then when he gets back in isolation when a decision is made, so he wouldn't have to answer the questions as part of there being a backflip.
So he doesn't have to own it.
Yeah, well, the government owns it, but he doesn't have to own the backflip. That's what he wants out of this. Who cares now, as long as they get out?